I was the lone survivor. 4 human beings died under my direction, and I lived. I was the commander. I was responsible for everything that happened or failed to happen. You got one shot at life. You never know what's going to happen the minute you get up and go wherever you're going.
Levi Rodgers, you run a team and a brokerage in over 3 different major markets in Texas with over 300 agents selling nearly at your peak 2,700 homes a year.
Can't tell my story without talking about the military. I joined the Army at a young age. I was really lost, to be honest with you. I was just trying to get to the next step in life. I don't have like this immense background of mentorship, but I just got in and started taking actions. Don't try to change the behaviors that have existed in our industry forever. You're not gonna win, but building systems around those behaviors, jackpot. You have tactical level leadership and then you have organizational level leadership. Tactical level leadership, when my whole organization would fit in one room, I would walk the whole team step by step. Now, organizational leadership, the message may be, hey, your mentors are going to walk you through this process. Hey, mentors, hey, leaders, how did that go? You know, I still interject myself on a weekly basis. I think that every organization builds their own culture. The distance between problem and solution is shortened significantly by Slack. It's a collaborative tool that anybody can have instant access to anybody.
I came to tears because when I came out of my coma,
Levi Rodgers, you run a team and a brokerage in over 3 different major markets in Texas with over 300 agents selling nearly at your peak 2,700 homes a year. Now, everyone sees you now, kind of like where you're at. I kind of think of life almost like a book with different chapters. What would I need to know about like your earlier chapters in life and like who you were earlier in life that shaped who you became today?
No, absolutely. That's a great question, Andrew. You know, I think that you can't tell my story without talking about the military. You know, I joined the Army at a young age and was really lost, to be honest with you. I was 17 years old when I rose my hand. And I was just trying to get to the next step in life. And for me, that involved me getting out of the environment I was in Sacramento, California. So I joined the Army and just went to that next step. I would not have what I have today without 2 things. 1, the United States Army, and 2, the kindness and generosity of complete strangers. And so I don't have a college degree. I don't have like this immense background of mentorship and leadership and guidance, you know, but I just got in and started taking action. So, but the Army and kindness and generosity of strangers are critical in my journey.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'd never end up graduating college too, so I've had to kind of learn through mentorship. I was curious off of that, like, why did you get into the Green Beret? Because that's an elite like force to get into. Like, was it mentorship? Was it like you had a moment?
Yeah, so what's interesting about that is, you know, I was young kid. I was on my first deployment to Bosnia, which I was still in the regular Army. I was a heavy equipment operator, and you know, I originally joined the Army to just get a skill so I can go back and get a job. You know, and that was the idea. This was before 9/11, and so I was just trying to get that GI Bill and then get a skill that I get a job. And while I was on my first deployment, I saw these really cool looking guys, and I was just very inquisitive, wondering, you know, what they were doing. You know, they had long hair and they, you know, had cool gear and they drive in civilian vehicles. And so I asked my squad leader about that, and he said, you know, I think they're special forces. And I'm like, well, what's special forces? What is that? He's like, they're Green Berets. I'm like, oh, what's a Green Beret? And so I went over to the career counselor and just learned more about that. And it seemed like something I wanted to do. You know, I was very athletic in high school. And so it just seemed like a step that I wanted to take. Yeah.
Did you ever, because like, for example, someone looks at you right now and they see like you running this like big team, big brokerage. Back then, you're looking at these people like the Green Beret, and they're kind of like at this high pedestal. people can kind of look at that and be like, oh, I can never be like that. Like, did you ever have that thought, or did you just be like, sign me up?
No, yeah, I was absolutely concerned about that, especially coming from, a non-infantry type job in the military. I was a heavy equipment operator. I, built roads, and dug holes. And so to become a Army Green Beret, it entails a lot of tactics and strategy and a lot of stuff that you really just don't get where I was at in the military. So I was absolutely concerned. And, but, you don't you lose what's it you lose all the shots, or you miss all the shots you don't take, however that saying
Yeah.
is. And so I had no fear to try it out. And I had one platoon sergeant who was in charge of me, that gave me some steps to get what he thought would help better prepare me, and so I just listened to him, executed, and unfortunately, I was selected. There's a grueling selection process that's involved in becoming a Green Beret. And so I was just fortunate to get selected and get to that next step. And some of my most wonderful years of my life were spent on a Special Forces A team. I absolutely love that.
Take me to like one of those moments. What was like, can you kind of walk me through something that was like very memorable for you, life changing?
Yeah. So let me think about that. I remember one time where I was a young guy in the Special Forces, and the Special Forces, you know, we, you know, we are a group of people that, is asked by America to go do some pretty tough things. And whether it's in combat or whether it's training, what have you, just jumping out of planes, etc. So you have a lot of folks on these teams that are okay pushing the limits. And we were on a training exercise one year in Florida. We got the bright idea of sneaking out of the exercise to go to Daytona Bike Week. And we knew that this would be a problem, but we did it anyway. But it was right after 9/11. And so everybody was pretty conscious about what's going on. And needless to say, we got caught. And so sneaking out well, anyways, we got in a lot of trouble. My whole team did. One of the things, I remember one of the leaders coming in there and sharing with us that talked a lot about personal courage. I remember he was a command sergeant major, and he said, you got to have the personal courage to say no when you know things are wrong. You just got to make sure that personal courage is something that you take with you everywhere you go. And I learned at that moment in my journey, because I wasn't a leader at that point. I was a young guy on a team. And I was still in that moment where I just said, yes, sir, and just did whatever the hell they told me to do. So that stuck with me very much. And I still think about that moment today. Things don't get better with time, especially bad things, and it's always best to solve that problem as soon as possible, so that it just doesn't fester, kind of like a bad zit, as soon as that thing's ready to pop it, don't let it wait. It's just going to be a more pain later and get bigger. That would be something I could think about right there that I could put back to you.
Yeah, I think that's it kind of hits for me. There's times in life where we're kind of trudging through the mud, and it's kind of like the dark moments in life, and you can kind of like sit in it, or you can keep like spiraling downwards. And I feel like sometimes when you're in that moment, it's sometimes hard to recognize it and be like, okay, let me turn the corner, kind of turn the page and say, let me push myself out of it. What do you think like holds people back from continuing to spiral down versus like taking accountability, kind of facing it head on and just keeping to push and move forward?
I think that I'd be interested to think of what how that question would get answered pre-social media. But I think a lot of it is we live in this whole world right now. We're so concerned about what everybody else thinks, We're
Yeah.
so concerned about I mean, we live in a world where you can grab this little robot that we all have in our hands, right? Usually right next to us. I have two of them, right? You could push a button, and within seconds, the whole world is notified of good or bad. And so I think that that has given everybody in all that they do this fear of instant accountability. And
Mm.
so whether you do good or whether you do bad, right? And so the most difficult thing to do is just, hey, put all that noise aside and just focus on the next step. I think that we live in so much fear of what others think. And then usually the people that have the time to pay attention to all that crap aren't, their opinion's not even worth it anyway. And so I think fear of what other people's opinions are on what you did or didn't do is usually something that weighs heavily on people. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the whole comparison thing is like a huge problem because you have a quote that you like to talk about. It's like, don't look through the glass, look in the mirror. Like, where did that start for you?
Yeah, so it's interesting with that is I think that it probably started. If I look back at the foundation of where that may have came from, is just from high school sports. I was a big track athlete. I ran the mile, the 2 mile, the 800. I was highly competitive, and you're only going to get better the more that you practice.
Hmm.
And so I think that competitive nature is what drove that for me. But in business and in real estate, there's so much opportunity, and oftentimes we are looking through the glass to find blame or find a reason why something did or did not happen. And the
Yeah.
only thing that you can control is what's in the mirror. And so for me, I can't think of like one defining moment, but
Yep.
over the course of my life, just several things helped build that for me. And I think that we are we will create the roadmap of our life. It's kind of like going to the gym, right? Like the hardest part about going to the gym isn't when you're at the gym; it's waking your ass up and going to the gym.
Yep.
Because usually when you get there, you have a great workout, but do you get there? And is it anybody else preventing you from getting there? No, it's you.
Yeah, that's so true. Is that why like you're so big on like like reports and accounting kind of with your team? It's like you're closing that feedback loop on a like shorter timeline for your team?
Yeah, I think with our team, I'm very engaged. Right now I'm in my office, but right outside my office is my ISA team and my entire staff. I I walk all over this place and look, I'm looking, problems to solve and help people with often. But yeah, no, absolutely. We have weekly accountability meetings with our mentors that go over every single appointment that's been delivered in our organization. And so we deliver between 25 and 30 appointments a day to the organization. This comes at a tremendous cost of labor and money.
Yep.
And it's my responsibility to the organization and the people that depend on the organization to hold individuals and the organization accountable. I mean, like just today, we had a meeting on another lead program we were doing. And in that meeting, I identified a gap that we need to fix as an organization. We didn't have the correct statuses set up, so that how the hell am I going to hold my people accountable in this lead program if I don't have everything all set up myself? So looking in the
Mm.
mirror isn't just for folks that are agents in real estate, also for leaders. And so I stopped the meeting and I said, you know what, we need to get our shit together first over here, and then we'll meet again in a week. And so, like, I think sometimes real estate leaders, real like, okay, yeah, I'm in leadership now, or I'm the team lead, or I own the place, or whatever. Well, now it's time really to work. Now you got to put your butt to work and get in there and take more action. It's not the time to go, take vacations all over America and anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's interesting because I'm kind of in the infancy of that where like now I'm kind of dealing with 30 people sometimes on a weekly basis between clients, team, etc. And I was kind of told by a mentor of mine, it's like, and I've kind of taken this on myself too, is instead of saying, "Oh, why didn't you do this?" It's almost like, "Why did I not set up like what needed to get set up so that you didn't even have to worry about like that problem in the first place?"
Yep. 100%, and, don't try to change the behaviors that have existed in our industry forever. You're not gonna win, but building systems around those behaviors, jackpot, it's like, why try to change how real estate agents are, you know what I mean? Good or bad, right? But if you could build
Yeah.
systems around those behaviors that have existed in our industry for decades, years, then, that should probably be the goal.
So, talking to like new team leaders or new leaders in the real estate industry, like you can look at all the things that you have in place in your business, like the onboarding, the training, the accountability, the reports, all these things. Like when you're kind of like growing, scaling, like building fast, kind of like firing at the hip, things are moving at 100 miles per hour. It can kind of feel hard to kind of take a step back and be like, okay, let me put onboarding in place, or let me put training in place, or let me put X, Y, or Z in place. So, how do you as a leader like take that step back?
Well, I guess it would depend on, what kind of leader you are. I mean, I've seen very successful real estate companies, and the owner is completely, you know, out of it, right? Like, and they
Mhm.
have, somebody else running the whole thing. But most of the real estate teams, just because of the economics, you either A, have to produce, or B, very involved in it. And so I think adopting a mindset of done is greater than perfect would be something
Mhm.
that I would recommend. It's something that my coach has harped on me for several years. And, as you get something to 70%, and let somebody else execute it, is something that I try to do. But it's definitely a challenge, especially if there's something that I feel that I could do better, right, or more
Mhm.
efficiently. Is it better for the organization to let somebody else do that thing, even though it's not as, let's say, not done as in a manner of you may be doing it or may have done it, but it allows you the time and flexibility to focus on other things that either grow the organization, or create opportunities for the organization. And so, but yeah, that's a challenge for me. I'm not perfect at it. Like I can. It's very common to see me out there going one on one with an agent, on the floor, where maybe that time one can argue, "Hey, Levi, maybe you should be out doing some business development or something like that outside of the office that can help it." And so, um, I would think that there's potential for wins and learns in every aspect of that.
Are you just kind of looking at all of your accomplishments, like your mannerisms, who you are? Are you a high D personality?
It's funny is that I'm very aggressive. I don't do the disc profile thing, and so I don't know what ID is, to be honest with you. But I'm definitely very aggressive. I'm not shy, and if there's something that needs to be said, I'll say it so we can get to the solution faster. As how I categorize myself.
So, like, a high D is kind of like that. Does really well with checklists, gets stuff done. Like, it would rather get something done versus like overanalyze, like
Oh
overthinking
yeah.
it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I think that, sometimes we will start, like right after this meeting that we're having today, we're launching a pilot program in my company. And there's no SOP written out. There's no nothing, written out, because real estate's like a constant startup right now.
Yep.
Opportunities come and go so fast, and you got to be able to move fast. And so I think that if you wait for the perfect timing to do something, that you may see the opportunity go away. So yeah, no, yeah, I'm definitely high D then. Yeah, absolutely.
So, being that kind of personality, was it ever hard for you to like let go, delegate, let other people get to that 70%?
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, it's something that I think is a challenge that I'll carry with me through the rest of my career. And I don't know. I've thought about this. When I'm sitting back, at some point there's an end point for Levi. Whether is it death or is it retirement? What is it? How does that evolve over the years? And yeah, that's definitely a challenge for me, for sure. Because not only do I enjoy being involved, but like I feel that I can get a lot of things done at a very high level.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that others can't. And we would not have the success we have today if it wasn't for people that I have great people in our organization, and those people and the support of their families help build everything that we have today. And no great organization is led and operated by one person. And so, but yeah, that is an absolute challenge for me for sure.
What do you think, or what have you found has been a benefit or like helped you like let go?
Well, I think that the realization, I have a coach, right? And so I'm fortunate to coach with Tom Ferry directly. And he keeps me in check, and so
Nice.
I'll run big problems and big challenges through him, and one of the things he talks to me about, he's the one that gave me the done is greater than perfect, so I just try to remember that and keep it top of mind. And if I'm not afraid to shoot him a text and be like, "Hey, Tom, I know that I know I should probably let going over here, but they're not hitting it where I need them to hit. What are your thoughts on it?" And so it'll help me navigate through that. But yeah, it's a huge challenge for me, Edric, for sure.
Nice. So the coach aspect, having that person that you can kind of like bounce ideas, bounce off of, has been pretty impactful.
Absolutely. We have coaches throughout our entire organization, for our agents, for our leaders. I think it's something that's very important. There's nobody that knows everything, and it's always good to have somebody that is at your level or beyond, that can help you navigate through some of the challenges that business presents to you or the organization. And so, yeah, that's a big part of our organization for sure.
Nice. So I'm curious. I want to kind of almost dissect in like a masterclass way, in a way, if it's possible. The levels of leadership you can almost equate to. I think I've heard someone say this, where it's like you have zero, which is like yourself, and then you have maybe three people, and it's like maybe admin here, there, and then from 3 to 30, like you can have some balance in between, but then 30 to 300, it's kind of like every 10x is like almost like this huge kind of like up level. Um, in a way, I don't know how correct that is, but I'm just curious from your perspective, like moving through those levels or moving through what maybe your thought process of those levels of leadership. Like if we're talking to someone who is just getting started or trying to get from like the first few people to like the first 30 agents, what are some of these foundational things that if you went backwards, you would be like, I would implement these right away in business?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that could be the whole podcast, right? It's just a discussion about that. For me, I grew up in the military. That's where most of my forming years came.
Yep.
In the military, at least in the special forces, span of control is 3 to 5 people. Now, that's talking about a gunfight, right? Like that's
Mhm.
it's a little bit different, right? We're not out there doing those type of activities in real estate, so that span of control can be bigger. But taking how we've built this organization, you have tactical level leadership, and then you have organizational level leadership. That transition from tactical leadership to organizational leadership has been something that we have gone through and still going through in certain aspects. Give some examples. Tactical level leadership, when my whole organization would fit in one room, I would walk the whole team step by step. Now organizational leadership, the message may be, hey, your mentors, your coaches, your leaders are going to walk you through this process. If you have any questions, get with them, and
Mm.
hey, mentors, hey, leaders, hey, how did that go? Is there anybody else that needs, some further training, or do you have your whole group trained up on this type thing? Would be an example, just in that aspect of organizational leadership versus tactical leadership, as I see it, right? Now, because I'm the organization leader of a real estate company that operates as a team in this size, which is a large real estate team, I still interject myself on a weekly basis in a very tactical leadership way. I run this deep dive with Levi to where the agents all have access to me directly. And I'm usually focused on one thing a week that
Okay.
we either messed up or identified that was critical the week prior. And so every Tuesday at 10 a.m., I go deep for 2 hours, and it gives the entire organization direct access to me. So I don't think that there is a cut and dry answer to that. I think that
Yeah.
every organization builds their own culture. But for me, making sure that everybody in our entire chain, the newest to the most senior agent, has access to me on a weekly basis, like that's, something that's important to me as well.
So, first, before the deep dive with Levi, I think at least this is probably where I heard it. The tactical versus organizational was Jocko Willink. That's the first where I heard it personally, because I read a lot of his books.
Yeah.
um, is that walk me through that idea, like as a leader, like when you kind of think through that, you think through, okay, tactical level leadership is like, let me go in the weeds through this project or this task, and organizational level leadership is like, let me coach this person on kind of the macro, and then they deal with the micro.
Yeah, yeah. I give you an example. So let's say that let's say I'm out walking the floor because I do this daily, constantly, and my assistant builds into my schedule like 30-minute gaps in between each appointment, and I'm using that time to walk the floor, right? Because I'm looking
Nice.
for opportunities to where I could find something, that may be a problem or a gap for the organization, and then I could bring that, hey, organization, hey, staff. I talked to 5 agents this week that have no idea on the sources of our leads or whatever the thing I find we need as an organization to do one huge class on this subject, right?
Mm.
Or tactical wise, let's say I'm out there and newer agents out there, they're having trouble with the phone call. Well, I may jump on the next phone call with them. You know what I mean? And help walk them through it. You know what I mean? And so I think that'd be more tactical. And then also on the way out of there, I may get on Slack and say, hey, Jane, hey, Jane's mentor, check it out. Maybe you guys should connect. I just met with Jane. She was on the floor and struggling with some phone calls or whatever. Maybe y'all need to role play or something like that,
Nice.
and help out. But if I see things consistently happening, or I identify or hear from my mentors, my leaders may bring this to me. Hey, Levi, we're having trouble in my group with this. And if I hear that again from another group or from somebody else, like that tells the organization that there's a gap. Like now it's an organization problem. If 3 or 4 people are having the same problem, I really need to look in the mirror and say, okay, hey, what can I do to make sure that my people all understand this? It's not isolated to one person. And so just take ownership of that and do what you do to resolve it.
So and this is where it kind of ties in with the deep dive with Levi's. Like, you're looking for these patterns and you're trying to find these patterns. And then once you kind of find that, you're trying to isolate that and address it in those deep dives.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I'll give you an example. Like we're trying to move the needle. We have some internal goals on our Zillow conversion. We've been one of the top Zillow converting teams in the country for a long time. We still are, but we have goals that we want to get.
Yep.
And we've had a few things of our metrics over the last 2 months that have dropped, right? Like I've seen our offer rate drop a little bit. And so tomorrow's deep dive and probably the next 2 deep dives are me just going deep with the mentors and the entire organization on what can I do today? What can I do tomorrow? What can I do at that next meeting to increase our offer rate? What are the discussions that we need to have with the consumer to ensure that our offer rate is where it needs to be? And then when that customer's ready, when maybe they've identified the right house or what have you, what am I doing to ensure that I am asking for that offer? I'm saying, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, this house has 4 out of the 5 things that you need. Let's go ahead. I think it's time we put on an offer, right? And so as an organization, we've identified that through the data that our offer rates have dipped. And so that tells me that I need to pull everybody together and focus on that right there.
So if you're one of the top, like Zillow, you see a lot more data than most people. what have you found as kind of, because a lot of people who watch, well, I would say most are real estate and real estate teams, team leaders, brokers. What have you found that's kind of worked for you to like increase that like conversion, that offer rate for your agents?
Oh yeah, I mean it's just engagement. Like you have to create an environment where your agents have no fear of raising their hand. Okay, that is critical, and that's something I learned the hard way. Right, like you are not going to succeed in a lead environment and hit the numbers that you need to hit with people that know everything, right? And then and there's not nobody knows everything
Yeah,
anyway.
no one
But
does.
what I'm saying is that you have to understand that your agents will have questions, and you have to create an environment to where they are celebrated and elevated when they do bring these questions into a group manner. And you have to
Mm.
take from those questions that you learn and say, hey, wait a minute, is this a gap in my organization? Why does this agent not know this? Like, what can I do better next time to ensure that any agent that walks through my door learns this key aspect? Right? Is it the way we delivered it? Is it the way we're coaching it, or are we not teaching it? I mean, what is it, right? And so, I think that's something very critical in response to your question there. And I don't know if I got everything. It seems like I'm forgetting something that you asked there.
No, that was good. So it's like you're allowing them that openness to ask questions, to look for problems. And so what,
Let me
you
throw
can,
one other thing into it too. So
yeah,
engagement, that's right. Engagement just isn't from the agents to you. Engagement is from you to them as well.
yeah.
So we encourage our mentors to reach out and talk to our agents all the time, right? We're very, very collaborative on Slack and as an organization as well. But I have a weekly leadership meeting with all the mentors, our managing broker, and we were in there every day every day, every Thursday at 11:30, and it usually goes for 2.5 hours, and sometimes 3 hours. And sometimes I'll bring lunch and be like, hey, this is going to be a long one, team, but we're going connection by connection, metric by metric on a weekly basis. We're looking at the last
Mm,
30 days, the last 60 days, the last 90 days, and decisions are made off of activity over the last 180 days, just to give the agent a benefit of
okay.
the doubt, because you have up months, down months,
Yep.
and the seasonality of things. And so, but yeah, every week, and I don't miss that meeting. Like that's every week, all the mentors, the manager, broker, and myself, we go connection by connection, appointment by appointment. And then after that, the mentors go out and they talk with their agents in their groups about the, things that they need to improve, et cetera, et cetera.
So that's awesome. You're very like, you live in like a physical business. Most of the markets are very close together, but you guys are very incorporated also in Slack. How do you guys use Slack? Because I use Slack every day. So
Yeah. Yeah. Like, it was funny. There was a worldwide outage of Slack about a year ago. And I was like, oh my gosh, we need a backup Slack because like everything kind of just stopped. The whole system stopped. I originally learned about Slack through our partnership with Zillow, and this was pre-COVID. We had a very similar communication platform in the Army called MercChat, where it allowed the whole battlefield to communicate with each other. You could chat with an airplane, or you could chat with a tank. You could chat with anybody on the battlefield. And so I look at Slack as the same way. It's a collaborative tool that anybody can have instant access to anybody. There's no block or barrier. People can reach out to me if they need to. I may say, hey, this is something you need to talk with your mentor about, but I get pretty deep into Slack. It's a huge part of our organization. And I love the fact that you can integrate it with a lot of other things as well.
so do you have like different channels for different like departments of the organization? How do you kind of think through that organizational structure in Slack?
Absolutely. So there's channels for leaders, there's channels for pilot programs, there's channels for lead delivery mechanism, like for jump balls, et cetera, et cetera. There's coaching channels. One of the neatest channels we have is a barriers channel. And what that is for our agents to go in there and say, hey, I have this customer that wants to buy a home, but I just can't get them past whatever barrier it is. And so the agents are encouraged to go in there and then put their barriers out there, and then everybody can jump in there and respond and say, hey, I get them with this credit repair person, or take them to this builder. They accept this credit profile or what have you. So it really helps our agents solve problems. But yeah, we have a ton of different channels for just different segments of the business for sure.
Nice. And have you found that like that kind of speeds up learning, having that Slack to like, because I found, for example, like the different channels, all the different stuff, like you can almost speed up your time with learning, having that much access to different people and everyone having access to you quickly, stuff like that.
Yeah, the distance between problem and solution is shortened significantly by Slack. Whereas I remember when I was coming up as an agent, when I was just individual agent at a Remax office, you had to schedule an appointment with the broker to solve your problems, and right now, I mean, we have a broker question channel to where in real time, 7 days a week, usually most of the time, myself or one of the other leaders, our managing broker, we're all in there. And if agent has a question, like it is very fair to say within seconds, they'll get an answer. And so, yeah, the distance between problem and solution is shortened tremendously. And it absolutely allows us to move faster, more swiftly, more efficiently. And the other great thing is that let's say you're bored on a Thursday night and you just are bored. Well, and you want to increase your learning and knowledge. I mean, pick a subject and put it in our Slack and search it. It's a really neat encyclopedia of problems and solutions that have happened over the entire history of our organization. It's all in there,
That's awesome. Have you ever heard of Basecamp?
Yeah, I've heard of Basecamp. What's interesting about these different tools, whether it's Basecamp, Asana, Slack, I never really did well in Basecamp. I don't know if it was just the design of it or what have you. But yeah, it's certainly a respectable tool that a lot of people use. For us, I've just used Slack, but
The reason I was asking is because the founder of Basecamp, Jason Fried, he actually created this company called Once. They have a portfolio company, but it's once.com, and it's almost like a decentralized Slack. And once.com is like you own the server, like you don't pay any monthly, like you just kind of pay once, and it's like you own it. So it's kind of cool. I was something I just kind of looking into, but
yeah, that's I'm going to check it out because one of the things, I'm not married to Slack. I'm married to the capabilities of Slack.
yeah,
I think we spend as an organization probably 14, 15 grand a year, somewhere around there, for
yeah,
Slack. It gets pretty expensive. And then, one of the most brilliant things they did is, allow all these integrations because that just
yep.
further ties you in. I have so many systems and processes. We have notifications from other portions of our business that auto update people all through Slack. It's a huge part of our organization.
Yeah, so this kind of cuts that, like where you don't pay that 14,000. So that's where it's like he's kind of building it for that like almost revenue difference. But I don't
Yeah.
want to go too much in the weeds of that because
No,
for
yeah,
most people,
I definitely wrote it down though. I'm gonna check it out, because there's one thing I think in common of every team leader that'll be listening to this. Anywhere where you can save money, like move there fast, especially in this type of environment. 2023 was brutal, right? It was brutal, man.
oh
And
yeah,
so many people were looking for ways to save money, myself included. And anywhere where you can get ahead of it. You never know when the next change is going to happen in this game.
yeah. So kind of thinking in terms of Slack, when you think of these organizational, like almost, it doesn't have to be a tech. It can be a tech. It sometimes leans itself to be kind of tech or tool. Like what have you found have been like instrumental for your business? You say you don't use Basecamp. What other like things do you put into place in your business that have been a big like organizational benefit?
So systems, is that what you're
It
referring
could be
to?
systems. It could be like a tool like Basecamp, like a tool like Slack, something like that.
I mean, I think the biggest thing that contributes to the success we have is our organizational culture and our people.
Yeah,
I'm really proud of our people, and it's and that's just not some cliche bullshit that I'm going to tell you. Let me share something with you. I was sitting in the interview. The most important listing appointment of my entire life is when, let me rephrase that. The most significant listing appointment of my entire life. And it was when they were doing the interview for Zillow offers. I had 3 executives from Zillow sitting in my office. And at the time, my organization was heavy military. It was like Army dude, Army dude, Army dude, Army dude, right? Baseball cap, tattoo, Army dude, right? Like that's what the whole organization looked like, right? And so you got these 3 executives from Zillow sitting there. And one of them said, "Hey, Levi, we really like what your company has to offer, but can you explain to me a little bit how you can relate with the majority of the people in the greater San Antonio area that aren't military?" And I usually don't get like in a position to where I have nothing to say in response, but I stopped and I was like, shit, I need to look in the mirror. Like, this is a problem. And so right after that was over with, I built an amazing presentation called The Faces of LRG and ensured that they knew that it wasn't just military dudes in our organization, but we shaped the future of our organization by adopting a mindset of, can I help the military community the most by hiring only veterans? Or can I help the military community the most by teaching as many people as humanly possible how to service the veteran community? And that was a defining moment for our organization, which allowed us to grow significantly, because you don't have to have served to help those that have. What you do have to have is a commitment to learn the stuff that you need to know to help them, VA pamphlet 26-7, the VA loan, all these other things. And so that was a defining moment. In terms of systems and processes, I think engagement throughout the organization from leadership down and also from the lowest, newest agent or employee up, engagement's key. In technical systems, Follow Up Boss has been huge for us. Great CRM. We built the organization when I was younger, building a team. We utilized KV Core, and we had a CRM called Conversion before KV Core, before Inside Real Estate purchased Conversion. And so I would just say our CRM would be very critical. It allows us to track the data. It allows us to track the lead sources. It allows us to hold the agents accountable, all in service of our shared customer, making sure that customer is getting the service that they need and deserve, and ensuring that our agents have the systems and tools to manage it and setting them up for success.
So I think you hit on something like huge, because that's something that I'm learning right now is like managing, like after a certain point, like, yes, managing the clients is a big thing, but your time is almost your most valuable listing starts to become like your people, your team. And it's like managing the people is like the most valuable, and managing the team. So when you look back at everything that you learned, like in the Green Beret and scaling, were there any tough lessons when you took on Zillow back at 30 agents? Because you scaled pretty fast from 30 to 300. I'm sure there's probably some challenges and lessons throughout that.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Never out advertise your capability, right? Fortunately, just through grit, we're able to get through it. But I made some commitments to people that as soon as I got that handshake and got the contract signed, I was like, oh shit, how are we going to do this? Right. And so, one thing I think of is that during Zillow offers, when that was going on, we were the San Antonio partner. Mm-hmm. There was a partner in Austin that fell out for whatever reason. I got a phone call from Zillow. This was right when COVID happened. And they said, hey, Levi, would you like to take the Austin market? We need your help. And I'm like, oh, I've only been to Austin twice, but yeah, if you need help, sure, let's do it. And when I committed to that, I absolutely had nobody in Austin. But I'm so glad that we did it though, because it forced us to go build what we have. But those were incredibly challenging. I think some tips I would say is to make sure your finances are in order. I think one of the biggest things that you do in leadership is to make sure that you're fiscally responsible. You have people and families that depend on you. You can't be out blowing your damn money. You need to make sure that you are keeping your organization and afloat. So if you do jump into the realm of the responsibility of real estate leadership, fiscal responsibility is something that I think is critical for you. Because you will run into challenges as you build an organization for sure. It costs a lot of money.
Yeah, finances are a major. You can't go broke. So that's a big point. So there's actually a team that I know that is kind of in a similar situation. Like Zillow came to them, they're kind of taking on for like a major metro market, and now they're kind of like scaling really fast. So almost speaking to them, or like speaking to a younger version of yourself, like when you are dealing with like recruiting, onboarding, training, like managing, like at that scale, stuff breaks. Like I imagine like you're just going through and you're like, this isn't working. Like, and you're probably like, because I feel like I'm dealing with this currently. It's like things are not moving necessarily efficiently. Like it's moving, but it's like I wish it could be better. So I'm like, okay, let me insert myself. Let me like get things better. Like, how do you deal with that? Like in the moment?
Yeah, I mean, just like in combat, nothing goes. Once you take that first step, no plan survives execution. There's a saying that we say in the military a lot. You just have to be fluid. One of the things I did a lot of in the Army was we would do a lot of close quarters combat. And it's a very rehearsed thing where you're going into a house, right? The first person has their rules, their second person has their rules, et cetera, et cetera. But if the first person is supposed to go left and then they go right, what are you going to do? Stop in the middle of the gunfight and whine because he went right instead of left? No, you're just going to pick up and, go left and continue it. Afterwards, you can come together and do what was called like an after action report and say, hey, this went good, this went bad, and here's how we can, do it in the future. So I think that, as problems happen, they're naturally going to happen as you're doing big stuff, right? Real estate is like a constant startup. Like there's so many people outside of the real estate industry trying to do stuff inside of the real estate industry. So like you just have to be fluid, you have to be nimble, and you have to be okay with things, breaking per se, right? Yep. And you can't sit there and throw a fit. And as a leader, people have their eyes on you. They're watching you. They're watching how you react to problems, right? The smoother and the calmer that you remain in the gunfight per se, right, the better off you're going to be. Because if you're in charge of people in business or life or what have you, and problem happens and you just have this whole look of this thing just overwhelmed you just killed your whole organization. Like, how the hell are they going to follow you into something bad and scary if you're sitting over there crying in a corner about it? And so I think that, you should expect problems and you should surround yourself with people that can shorten that distance to the solution. I am not the solution to every problem in my organization, but I damn sure have surrounded myself with a lot of great people that help me make that distance a lot closer.
That's awesome. That's a good point that you kind of mentioned, almost really briefly, where it's like sometimes you have to, again, going back to everything that we're talking about, like accountability, look in the mirror. It's like when things are moving fast, like you have to take accountability. You have to look in the mirror and you have to like make that change like really quickly.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too, we have a kind of a standing rule around here is that we don't walk by work here, right? If you're an agent in my company and there's like the trash in the dang room is freaking overbearing full, like don't walk by it, grab the damn bag of trash and take it out. You know what I mean? And so like we don't have any passengers on our boat. We only have crew. And so like we want people in our organization that are going to help keep our boat above water. Everybody has commitment to that in our organization. And that's what I was talking about earlier with the culture, that Like we've got a lot of really neat people. And, one of the other things too is the families, like the families of our people are just so strong and supportive. I can't imagine how difficult it is to support somebody in the real estate industry. Like, I mean, you can be doing this one day, and the next day, phone call comes in, and boom, you're going a different direction. And so, people and families, for me, that's where it's at. I really, really care about my people.
Yeah, and like you've talked about this a lot. It's like when you're at like any size team, it's like now you're not just waking up for yourself, like you're waking up for all 300 of your agents. You have to show up. You have to give it like your best because everyone's kind of like relying on you.
Yeah, 100%. It is my responsibility to the organization and the people and families that depend on this organization to show up to the fight. Period. Like, I'm good. Honestly, this could all end tomorrow. I made great real estate investments. I got a good Army retirement. I've saved money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What motivates me and gets me up every day is, like, matter of fact, we have a couple agents onboarding today. I met with them, today. I meet every agent that joins our company, and it's important for me. It's almost therapeutic because I want to know more about their families and their why, and I take extreme ownership of that. And if somebody doesn't succeed in your organization as a team leader, you really got to look in the mirror and say, hey, you know what? Why didn't they succeed? Was it a behavioral thing on them, or was it a systems and training thing on you? I know we're not going to have 100% of our agents closing 100 deals a year or whatever. But I'm not going to let myself get in the way of somebody's success either. And right now in our organizationalist journey, it involves me showing up every day, ready, willing, and able to lead the charge. Will it always be like that? I don't know. I have no idea. But foreseeable future, I'm here every day, in the fight with my people.
Nice. And I want to talk in a second about, because you have, I think I found like an organizational chart. You have like a chief of strategy and future operations, and you talk about like the future of your business. But before that, uh, I think you have kind of like mastered like managing people. And I would kind of be remiss if I didn't ask, like, what do you think has played a big role in like the lessons that you've learned, like the stuff that you do to like manage people at like a high level?
Yeah. I think that it comes from my time in the military, I mean, and no one's left behind type thing. I am just tremendously committed to my folks, no matter how long you've been in an organization or who you are, what color your skin is or what language you speak, doesn't matter. If you want, matter of fact, let me share with you a little bit. I have a gentleman that joined our organization. I made a Facebook post about this just the other day. Afghan interpreter. He was from Afghanistan, and he migrated here to the United States to give himself and his family a better life. And he helped soldiers on a battlefield speak a language and that we didn't speak, and increase the survivability of warfighters abroad. He came to our organization, and as you can imagine, landing in a different culture, a different environment, all this stuff is incredibly difficult. But I found people in the organization, and some of the people in the organization found me and others. It wasn't just me. His mentor and our other leaders in the organizations really, really helped him get where he needed to get. And this dude put 5 dealers under contract this month. He got one close. The guy's going to make more money this month than probably the average worker in Afghanistan makes in 5 to 6 years combined. You know what I mean?
Jesus.
He's going to have an incredible month. And so I think the commitment to people played in big there, right? It wasn't just, hey, Safi, here's a book. Good luck. It was like, hey, man, let's meet at the office. Hey, man, let's meet at the office. And so accountability goes both ways. And I forgot I got off track a little bit. What was the other part of that question?
Like almost, for example, his name is Safi, you said?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So almost that. Like, what did you do, or like because managing people is kind of like a big thing. Like, what
Yeah.
did you do to like it, like get that environment for him to even have that success?
So I'll tell you. So Safi, him specifically, we'll talk about that. As soon as he was attracted to our company, and one of the mentors, told me about him and said, "Hey, Levi, there's this guy joining our company. I think you should know about." So that was the initial one, and then I requested a meeting, had my assistant set up a meeting with him, which I think that probably played into setting the tone. It's like, okay, hey, the boss is going to meet with this agent individually, with his mentor and our director of buyer agent operations, and just we put a couple hours into it and talked with them, and then they took over. So letting the organization know that they have the freedom and flexibility to help this guy succeed, and maybe go a little bit deeper with him because he's got some challenges that some of the others may not have. He's adapting to a whole new way of life, right?
Yeah.
Is important. So, but I am by no means the one person that played into that. Safi is the one that's responsible for his success. The mentors and the system and organization also played a huge part in that as well. I think with that, and that's just one example. We have so many people here that may not have done well in real estate elsewhere or thought that they could do well in real estate, but through our system here, through the mentorship and coaching, we've built a lot of rock stars, man, and it's something I'm incredibly proud of and committed to. And but it takes them too. It's not just us. It takes them to want to put in the work.
Yeah. So you talked about that a lot, like the mentorship and the systems. Like, are those in your mind kind of like some big like rocks that have like, is there kind of set meetings every single week? Is
Yeah,
there like
yeah.
a training that they go through? Um,
Yeah, so everybody that joins our organization, you got to be committed to a five-day onboarding, and that 5-day onboarding, what that does is it introduces you to our organization's systems, our tools, our infrastructure, the people of our organization, our staff. And also it gets you in a mentorship group. We have 8 different mentorship groups, and they all have their own little culture within the groups.
nice.
Everybody's different, which is one huge advantage that we have as an organization. Weekly, we certainly have set training. We have a training calendar is published, and there's a ton of training that's out there that people can individually go to. However, our biggest training event is on a weekly basis, the deep dive with Levi. We'll usually have about 120 to 170 people on that deep dive every week, every Tuesday at 10. It goes for 2 hours, and it's just basically like this huge mastermind. Sometimes there's a focus area, sometimes there isn't, but it's a really neat thing. And then in keeping the leaders engaged as well, every Thursday we have a big leadership meeting. Regular training and accountability is a huge part of our journey for sure.
That's awesome. It's almost like everyone has their own like mini pod of mastermind. They don't necessarily even need to seek out external masterminds because they have it in the organization.
Yeah, no, yeah, not at all. Yeah, it's, they can if they want. I encourage them
Yeah.
to, if that's something, we don't have every answer, but, certainly, yeah, it's, there's a lot available here for our people. Our partnership with Tom Ferry organization also increased that capability because, he has a huge database of people and videos and training, et cetera. And we have a couple coaches assigned to our company as well that bring an outside perspective as well, and so that our agents have access to that because maybe one of the mentors is coaching them on whatever task, and maybe they're just not hearing it. But if they hear that from a different voice, it may make the difference. I don't know. And so I'm not going to fight that. I'll just I'd rather be rich than right, if that makes sense, right? Like,
Yeah.
and so that's a thought on that.
Nice. So you spend a lot of time kind of looking at the future of the organization, the operations, and like the strategy moving forward. As you said, you're implementing some new stuff. What are some things that you're kind of like looking towards, anything that's on your mind right now?
Yeah, so I think that I don't want to sound cliche and say AI, but how can I take AI and utilize that capability to enhance our organization's capability? Not take away from people that have helped build our organization. I'll never do that. I'm one of
Hmm.
these guys that stands in the human line at Sam's Club on purpose, just because I'm like anti-robot in some capacity. I mean, I love the robots, but like I really love humans, and so that but how can I take AI and enhance our organization's capabilities and efficiencies? One of the things we do on an annual basis is I bring in a corporate trainer, and her name's Caitlin. Caitlin's a graphic recorder, and one of the things that she helps our organization do is basically like this huge annual SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. And it helps us identify where we need to go to. The whole purpose of it is not to identify the problems that we had last year, but the problems that we'll face in the coming years, and in positioning our organization ahead of that change. Changing is something that you need to be able to do in real estate leadership in any type of business, but it's a lot easier to change on your own terms than to get changed. Right. So if you
Yeah.
see the market changing in a manner to where that you will have to adapt, well, don't waste any time. Get ahead of it, because what I found is that, I'll give you an example. Here's an easy one for a lot of people to relate to. There's a lot of people in the industry either moving to Follow Up Boss or away to Follow Up Boss after the Zillow acquisition. If you're partners with Zillow, there's a lot of people moving towards Follow Up Boss. Well, we saw a lot of the integrations and things happening with Follow Boss. So, several years back. So we made that change ahead of it. And it's something through just putting our heads together and masterminding, and, this training, this annual event that I do every year to
Yeah.
help us prepare for the future, that we identified was a must needed change that we should have done. And so now there's a lot of teams, trying to rapidly learn Follow Up Boss, but we're cruising.
Yeah.
We've been doing it for a few years.
You're already on it at this point. So
Yep.
that's cool. So you kind of mentioned AI a little briefly. I was curious because I imagine, for example, like I look at two opportunities like almost immediately. One, you have all this data, so it's like, how do you use that data with AI? Or the other opportunity is like, you have probably this huge knowledge base, all this information across all this. So it's like, how do you use that as like for like a chatbot or something? So are you trying to implement it in some way?
Yeah. So, without getting too deep, because it's not released yet,
Yeah.
but we've developed a product, and the product's name is Shallow. And what that does is analyze a lot of the calls and a lot of the sales activity in real time. And it's really impressive. Our agents have a phone call. They know within seconds the good, the bad of the call. They know what they could have done better, and they also know some of the things that they need to do as well. And so
Nice.
no human can analyze all the phone calls on a weekly or daily basis.
Yep.
And so that's an example of how we've taken this technical capability and utilize it to enhance our operations without getting rid of people and so forth and so on. And it's a beautiful, beautiful tool. So stay tuned for that one. You'll definitely hear about that in the coming months. So that would be a big advantage. I think on the coaching side with AI, I think that we are out of the generation of how. Everybody with this little robot we carry around with us has the capability to answer a problem. You could be in the bathroom on the toilet, and then you could prompt ChatGPT to answer a question for you that may, in the 5 years ago, may have involved finding an expert or going to a class for a week, right? If you ask it the right question, it'll give you just a beautiful answer. And so we now, I think that this is more of an if generation versus a how. And what I mean by that is if you decide to take action on the things that you need to do to win, you'll get it. But no longer do you need to know everything. You just need to know where to ask it and how to ask it. Like the AI is such an enhancement tool. Like a new agent can script out everything that they need to say in the voice of a very experienced agent in real time. Like it's absolutely freaking bananas. But the thing that will need to happen for your agent to be able to do that is they'll have to take action and
Yep.
put the damn app on their phone, and they'll have to take the time to dedicate towards doing it. Then they'll absolutely have to implement it, right? And so how versus if, it's how I think about that.
Yeah, something that I kind of took
Mhm.
away last year, just looking at a lot of stuff, is like speed of implementation is like super key.
Yep.
It's like, how do you shorten the timeline for speed? So, kind of really quickly, that AI, like, I know obviously you didn't build it. Like, I would never build an AI. Like, was the shortcut to implementing that in the business just finding the right who to kind of set that up? Or, yeah,
And a lot of money. Yeah. So, prompt engineers are not cheap.
yeah,
Neither are people that, can build stuff out like this. Very, very expensive. Deploying the capital, you got to be careful too, guys. Like, yeah, especially younger real estate team leads, right? Like, you have to be very careful about where you deploy capital and, what needs cash, what doesn't need cash, et cetera, et cetera. And, because you can go broke really fast in this game. And so just be very careful out there with that. But we had to hire a few people for that for sure.
nice. Yeah, that's a good point. Now, I did have a question because back in 2009, like you almost died, and that's what was that kind of what set off the whole journey into real estate for you in Afghanistan?
Absolutely, yeah. So I was in Afghanistan, and I was a commander of a Special Forces A team. And unfortunately, while returning from an operation one night, our vehicle struck an improvised explosive device, and everybody in the vehicle was killed, with the exception of myself. I wear this bracelet right here every day. You can see this. I rub when I get nervous. I rub it, but it bears the names of the men that were lost that night: Brad, Sean, Josh, and Rasul. I was a lone survivor of that vehicle. One of the neat things, I guess, if that's the right way to classify it or not, is the guy that pulled me out of the vehicle played a big part in saving my life, because a lot of people played a part in saving my life, the doctors, the rest of my team. But Pedro pulled me out of a burning vehicle. Pedro works for my organization today. Pedro runs our
Wow.
logistics for our organization. He's from San Antonio, but I was medically evacuated to San Antonio, Texas, where I spent about 6 weeks in a coma at the burn center here. And as I navigated out of real estate, out of the Army, ran into a lot of challenges. I thought that I was just going to exit the Army and get into corporate America, but I hit a brick wall of realization that, nobody really cared. Nobody really cared about what I did in the military. I really cared about, how can I take what I did in the military and help them where they're at, which is very fair, and so I began going down this journey that we read about, the veteran taking pain pills, the veteran struggling or transition, the veteran contemplating suicide. I was headed down that journey, and I was running into money troubles. I was running into just all kinds of troubles. And a friend of mine advised me to sell the house that I bought, the house that I had in North Carolina. I called the real estate agent that sold it to me like 12 years prior. And, he's like, yeah, hey, Levi, this thing's worth about $150,000 more than what you paid for it. You should probably sell it. So we sold it, and I was able to pay down my debt. I was able to have a little bit of money left over, but I still didn't have a job. And upon realizing the impact that this one agent had on my life, his name is Gary Langdon. I'll never forget this man as long as I live. He helped me make a smart real estate decision. And so I just, upon that realization, I got on Google and figured out how to become a real estate agent. And from the beginning, my whole goal was to take that experience and help my people, the military and veteran community, help them make smart real estate decisions and help impact their lives. And So that's the why. That's how I got into this business.
Hmm.
And it's evolved over the years, and where we were hyper focused solely on the military and veteran community, we're hyper focused on people and families now. It's just a beautiful thing to help people and families navigate through such a complex process, real estate. And I'm just incredibly proud that I've built an organization that does that in a genuine manner, regardless of what you look like, regardless of where you're from. It doesn't matter. We want to help you win in this idea called the American Dream. That's that. Yeah, but I'm hyper focused and hyper committed on helping people win. And just continue to do that as long as I'm around. God has blessed me with another opportunity at life, and so I intend to live it. I'm going to show you something here.
Okay.
This wasn't by design, but over here in my, I don't know what your screen is, but I keep in my office as a reminder every day when I get up. This is the gear that
Wow.
I had on. This is the gear that I had on that night. And you can see the blood from the back of my head right there still. This was in
Yeah.
2009, right? But yeah, this is, you can still all burned up, but
Jeez.
I keep this here every time I walk in my office, every time I walk out of it. There's a constant reminder of my why. And, sometimes remaining calm in the face of problems is a challenge. But for me, it's, it, I just can't take a few steps around this place without being reminded of why I got into this business to begin with. And there's always somebody else out there that's having a worse day. If you're having a bad day because you had a closing, get delayed, like, I can assure you that that's a first world problem, and there's far more people out there having far worse days, right? And so I
Yeah.
try to, just put things around the office to help keep me in check as well. Remind me, I have in our little city here, I have a really large flagpole right out in front of the building, as well. And I just, for me, those reminders help, it's much like why I wear this bracelet. Wear this bracelet everywhere I go. Like you will never see me anywhere in life without this damn bracelet on. And so it's just, yeah. So that's the story behind that. It's, I didn't get in this business to, grow wealth or anything like that. I got in this business to help people like me, and it's evolved certainly over the years. But yeah.
That's awesome. And obviously, thank you for your service, and you're
Oh yeah.
helping thousands of families every year. And so you're definitely a beacon of light.
I
So,
appreciate that. Yeah, and I
uh,
appreciate that. We got a lot of great people though. I find myself back here at the headquarters now, kind of, controlling the flow, but our people are out there putting in the work every day. They're the ones out there in the sun of San Antonio and Texas and Austin and Colleen, putting in that work and being the face of the organization. So, yeah.
nice. So I did have one question off that. Like, loss of identity is like a big thing, especially like being a Green Beret. Like, it's a huge thing for like athletes. Like when you go through a divorce, retirement, like when you go through some major like life transition, that loss of identity can hit you hard. Um, and you kind of mentioned like you could have gone down like this really deep dark path, but you didn't. So I was curious, maybe like what helped you, or like just kind of talking to that a little bit.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was a lone survivor of a pretty difficult situation. 4 human beings died under my direction, and I lived. I was the commander. I was responsible for everything that happened or failed to happen. These men's families lost their loved one because of decisions I either made or didn't make. Not my fault, but it's something that I own.
Mm-hmm.
I have an obligation, a duty to those men and their families to live the most amazing life as humanly possible. And, how would it feel if you were watching this and you were the father of one of the men that died in that attack, and you saw this guy, the lone survivor of this attack, and he was on the streets, addicted to meth, just living a bad day. and not taking advantage of the opportunity he was given. And so I have an obligation to Brad, Sean, Josh, Rasul, and all their family members to go live the most amazing life as humanly possible. For I was the one that survived, and it's something that I I just, like, nothing will ever get in the way of that. I am so committed to that, you know, and it's just something will never be compromised. Period. And so you know, I don't have I didn't come from money. You know, I didn't. You know, I came from like no money. You know, I think that, you know, you can achieve whatever it is that you put your mind to. And if you're surrounded by people that help you get there, fabulous. If you're surrounded by people that won't help you get there, change the people that you're surrounded by. You know, I mean, you got one shot at life. You never know what's going to happen the minute you get up and go wherever you're going. And for me to have um, such a bumpy journey, you know, out of the military and into civilian life, like the realization that I had a duty to these men and their families to go live the best life as possible is really what did it for me. That was the catalyst of change in my life.
Well, all I can say is thank you,
Yeah,
because
absolutely. Yeah.
you definitely are, and I'm sure that everyone can see that from everything that you've done and you're building and you've built. So,
Yeah, I
um,
appreciate that. I appreciate it. I appreciate you providing the opportunity for me to share the story. You know, if we can impact anybody, like it's like transition's tough. You mentioned it earlier. Whether you're coming out of anything, it doesn't matter what you're coming out of and going into. It's tough, you know. You know, for me, it was the military. But you may be coming out of a different industry into a new industry. You may be coming out of a divorce into a new marriage. I mean, you may. Who knows what you're transitioning out of and into? It's tough, but. You know, really double down on what your why is. Try to find your why and stay committed to it. You know, for me, I wake up every day with intentionality, and I don't let anything get in the way of that. And you know, and that's just something I've made a decision on. You know, but I very easily could have went the other way, very easily. And it's just been very fortunate. I mentioned earlier that had it not been for the kindness and generosity of complete strangers, like I would not be here today, at all. And so a lot of wonderful people have come into my life to help me along this route.
yeah, I feel like all of us are kind of like one step along the wrong path. Sometimes it's just like one decision or one person who's kind of like helped us. So,
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
so not to make light, but of kind of what we just talked about, but I thought there's an interesting story to kind of almost top all this all off. Is like you, I heard you talk about like the 5 acre property and like finding that like
Yeah,
dream.
yeah.
That was
So
a
my
big
house,
moment.
yeah. So wow, yeah. I don't remember telling that story. Wow, your research is impeccable. And so yeah. So I've been very blessed, you know, financially on this journey. I've made a lot of smart real estate decisions and got a lot of great people that have helped me get here. But I was looking for a house, and my son and I were in a hunting stand, and so Owen was on Zillow. If you don't think families have an impact in real estate decisions, you're mistaken. Kids have a play in it. My son and I were in a hunting stand, and he's like, "Hey, Dad, there's 5 acres in San Antonio. We should check this place out." And I'm like, "Nah, the mapping's off. There's no way that exists right there." And he's like, "Dad," I'm like, "Owen, I'm in real estate. Like the mapping's off. There's no way this is accurate." So, anyways, we're still sitting there. No deer are coming, and I'm like, "Shit, this kid's right. This exists." And so immediately get on a phone call with my girlfriend, and I'm like, "I need you to go find this agent now because this house is right here." And so we get there, and I didn't realize at the time, but we're coming out of the ranch. We're coming from my ranch. We're all nasty and muddy, and we just smell like we've been hunting for a week, you know. We meet my girlfriend and the real estate agent at the house. But one of the things that happened on the way there is as we started to go up the hill, right? Um, looked over and I saw this apartment building, and I stopped, and I just immediately just like I came to tears because when I came out of my coma, and when I was transitioning out of the hospital, there was a family from New Jersey. They heard about my story, and this is Sam and Larry Rea. They now run a nonprofit called Homes for Heroes, and they gave my family a place to live so that I wouldn't have to recover in a Fisher house or a hotel, so that I could have a little decency and have my own place. They gave us a fully furnished ADA compliant apartment to live in. And I knew no matter how much money this house that I was driving to go see cost at that moment, that I was going to make that house mine. Because every single day that I get to drive up that hill and drive to work, I get an opportunity to look at that apartment building. I get an opportunity to reflect on the kindness and generosity of complete strangers. The Rea family had a huge impact in my life, and they didn't have to. They didn't even know me at the time that they helped. And so, yeah, that's why I bought the house, is that so every day I get a chance to just drive up that hill and drive home or drive away from it. And you cannot leave that area without driving by that apartment building at the bottom of the hill. And so for me, it was just more than just finding a house. It just became very special at that moment. And so I just that was that. So I'm guessing that's the story you heard. Like, wow, I don't share that often, and so yeah, kudos to you on that one. But yeah,
That's awesome. That's a
yeah,
great story.
yeah.
So, if people want to follow you for more, kind of see what you're up to, where they should they go?
Yeah, I think Facebook is probably the best place. We're certainly on Instagram and so forth as well. But I'll send you all of our handles that we have. Make sure that you have that, Andrew. But yeah, I'm easily found on Facebook, and but yeah, we certainly have the Instagram and so forth. I put most of the information out on my personal Facebook. So yeah, definitely follow me on Facebook, and if there's anybody that I can help in any capacity, feel free. Excuse me. Feel free to reach out. Just hit me up. We'll schedule some time, and happy to help anybody. I'm not above helping anybody in this game, and because I damn sure wouldn't have what we have today without people helping me.
I want to thank you for being a leader in the industry and leading by example and helping not just the industry, but you're helping way more now. So